I don't know what that was. Oh, this shit now. This is what you get when you try to fuck with stuff. Anyways, um, I'm back here again. I'm in a great place, obviously. Doing great, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Sorry that your normal broadcaster was not able to be with you here today. He had some business to attend to. My name. It's a good question. What is my name? Names aren't important here. Um, I've been thinking a lot. I've been thinking a lot here. Been thinking a lot about a lot of things, and those things I think a lot about. So, maybe I'm here to share some things with you. Um, I was put on to this man named Robert Antoine maybe Wilson, acronym RAW. He probably best described maybe as like or it was an American author, futurist, psychologist, and self-described agnostic mystic. I haven't done enough research to really touch more on it than that. Um, so interesting though. I'm gonna have the same. Huh. Anyways, I've been thinking a lot. Okay, so I talk. I just looked down at the time. It's been 2 minutes. I've said nothing. Um, Obviously, I talk a lot about the power of thought, power of maybe if something is uh if you think it, maybe that's just as powerful as if it's actually happening. So then I was thinking something that bothers me. Okay. I'm not anything. I'm just um how would I say a messenger, okay? I'm not really a real thing. Simply here just to prophesize the word. Um but this is what I'll prophesize. I if you can think something and that is just as important as it actually happening within your own internal experience. I was also thinking about the well, and obviously we know that everything that you do, say, or feel is coming from, stemming from something far away or something like that. Far away being like it's stemming, it's a response to something that you've, okay, alright. Let's organize here. You can deliberately and consciously think about something, but in some way or another there will be a subconscious motive. Okay, does that make sense? So I will it something I've noticed within the generation that you could maybe consider me within, around maybe like let's say 17 to 24, 17 to 23 right now in the year of 2024. So born like I don't know anything about 17-year-olds. Let's just say 2000 to 2003. Anyways, all of these kids, like, when I come to you, you made me a sandwich, okay? And I come to you and I say, uh, thank you for making me the sandwich. What in your mind, not in your mind, but what do you respond to that with when someone says thank you, right? Not what you think you should say or what you've maybe been, uh, trained to say. What do you actually say? What I tend to say a lot of the time is no problem. I say no problem. You know. Um. So I was, and I noticed a lot of other people my age say the same thing. So I was kind of, but more so I was. I'll get into other people once I explain the thought. So I say no problem a lot. So I kind of tried to break that down into like, I believe that words, especially constant or subtle reinforcement of words over and over again, those can be pretty powerful on all sort of, how would you even say, quantum levels. Like, the words you say aren't just powerful to the ears that hear them, but are also powerful to the vibrations they interrupt when they leave your mouth, right? I think that they genuinely have a purpose far beyond the the viewed reality of it being you say something, it's just words that leave your mouth. Does that make sense? So, no problem. So I broke it down like this. No problem. I understand. Okay, but work with me. So in this regard, it's no would be not, the opposite of yes. Used before problem to indicate there isn't one. So let's just keep going. Problem, an issue, an inconvenience, a distraction or bother, something that needs to be solved. Those are my interpretations of those words, right? So if someone is showing me appreciation for something that I completed for them, or that I suppose I started thinking about this in like because I work mostly in, I suppose, like customer service or guest relations or whatever. So if they're thanking me for doing something for them, um, and I constantly am saying no problem, oh, it's no problem. If I'm reiterating the fact that it's no problem, does that mean that there ever was a problem to begin with? So, and I understand maybe I'm thinking deep into this, but stay with me. So, if there's some sort of underlying issue that maybe I'm trying to like, it seems as if when I say no problem, I'm trying to like almost like disarm the situation. Like I did this thing for you, you don't have any like, it's okay. It's no big deal. Glad it's over. Let's move on, right? As opposed to uh thank you and then responding, you're welcome, right? So then I took that a step further and I broke that down from uh, how I interpret it, I suppose you could say. And I said, your, which is you are, this person is whatever, as follows, right? Your doesn't really hold much context other than you, right? As follows. Welcome. This one was interesting to me because, and I had never really thought about this. What does welcome mean? Like in terms of like thanks, showing thanks for something is showing praise, showing grace, or showing appreciation rather. I should say, like being being positively affected and wanting to communicate that to who positively affected you, right? That's what thanks is. And I'm showing thanks to you directly. Welcome is interesting to me. And welcome is a place of belonging. You're welcome to trouble me because it is no trouble at all. I want you to ask me for things, right? Does that make sense? I feel welcome somewhere. You're welcome. You're, that's how I started to break it down. That's the instant, or that's the ticket I bought at the train station. When someone is showing you grace and praise for something, to, and now I'm speaking on the individual level, to respond to that in a way, because when I say no problem, it seems to me, where did I have this? It seems to me I used it subconsciously to both disarm / mediate a situation, while also finding enjoyment for myself in solving the issue presented. So, where does that stem from for me? I'm assuming probably somewhere from childhood, right? If I was asked to do something that I didn't want to do, I'm assuming that I would respond no problem. Or if because on a subconscious level, maybe I didn't want that whoever was asking me to do something to feel welcome to ask me to do things. It's like, hey, it's no problem. And then now that has underrooted inrooted maybe itself into my everyday dialect. Every single time someone asks me for something, I respond in a way that I believe is stemming from me trying to disarm. Maybe not disarm is the right word. But how close? Okay. All right. Sorry about the reflection. or but maybe it's stemming from, if you were to ask me why I had that on, it's because even indoors you never know who's watching. If I've or inverted my psychology with every time that someone asks me to do something, I'm trying to alleviate a problem as opposed to accepting it head on as a part of being mm, involved in the situation with that person, you know, then everyone I interact with, because if it's working for me on that level subconsciously, then the words that I'm saying, being no problem in this instance, that hit the other person's ears, they get interpreted and processed in a way that could be completely different from mine, but also will then, and that's on the conscious level, how they hear it, so they hear no problem, it's like, oh, yeah, of course, something like that. But then maybe on a subconscious level, they're like, what do you mean, problem? Why was there a problem? I thought that this is what uh, I thought that, in terms of a work environment, I thought that you were here for me to utilize in terms of what I need in this establishment for what I pay for, right? Or in terms of a life environment, if um, let's talk about a parent dynamic. And I'm not a parent, so I'm speaking from and matter of fact, I'm still could be argued a child. So I'm speaking from a perspective that is not very broad. I have no understanding of this, but from an outsider's perspective, for a parent, and only speaking in terms of what I'm talking about now, for a parent, if they were coming to their child, which I'm assuming for a parent, and obviously this is a blanket, so there could be outliers to like everything. For a parent, that child will always have a sense of belonging because it literally stemmed from it, right? As opposed to child that's growing, sometimes you outgrow the stem. Sometimes there isn't necessarily a place for that in your life. Not to say don't have a, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Not to say don't have a relationship with your parents, or not to say don't nurture the stem in which you were harvested from, but I'm just saying um, there's a time in every young man's life, I suppose, where um, you can't rely on your parents anymore, you know? But as they get older, the pendulum kind of swings back and they start to rely on you. So if a parent were to, and I suppose I'm just reiterating the same statement, but I'm just trying to broaden the underlying mean, the perspective of the underlying mean. So if a parent comes to you and instead of saying you're welcome, mom, or you're welcome, dad, you know what I'm saying, instead of being like, no problem, how does that process to them psychologically? Do they now have a sense of belonging within their child? Because it's almost as if once the fruit has been harvested, and then it's eaten or whatever, the core will return and then it reblooms, and you see what I'm trying to say? So that's on an individual level and how I interact with people. Now let's say, okay, there's like 8 billion people on the planet. Let's say there's, and I said the age range in like 3 years, so let's say from like 20 to 23. Let's say there's 1.5 billion 20 to 23-year-olds on the planet right now, or whatever the number is. It's probably not close. I don't know, but just for thought, let's say 1 billion. Keep it a whole number. 1 billion. And let's say half of them interact that same way. Okay? So now we have 500 million. Let's keep 500 million people that when let's just go with that number. Let's not, 500 million people that when you say thank you to them, they respond no problem, right? Or some variation of that. What is the What is the mass subconscious programming of that? That and I feel like I want to do some more research on this. Like, where did no problem stem from? I want to know where that came from. Where was like the first time that was seen, used in media or something like that? But if you have 500 million people across the world that every time you try to say thank you to them, they say, no problem, and then let's assume that half of them have kids, so then 250 million people have kids, so that's 125 million couples, and then let's assume that per couple, on average, they have, let's keep it a whole number and just assume 2 kids, so now we have 250 million, and then now you have the family tree. So it only takes like a generation or two before now that 500 million of people that started kind of saying that, wherever it came from, is now having more kids, and they're all responding to no problem and things like that. And then what if it, and then now we're going towards a world where every time you ask someone something, you got to be like, hey, take it easy now. Can I have a couple hot sauce packets? Or can you pick your socks up off the floor or something, And then you're coming into every engagement with like a shield up, and you're kind of bobbing and weaving and like, pick up your fucking socks, And that's not good. That's not good. So that's why I was channeling Lovestein today. I don't like that name. Let's call me Loveberg. Don't. The love key, baby. I'm the love key. The Rick of love, baby. Anyways, I say all that to say I'm trying to now that I've become aware of, well, I haven't become aware of where it stems from yet, but I've become aware of how I think that I can't change the other, you know, 499,990, I can't change all of them, but if I, within my family tree of, let's say I have one and then I have like 2 kids. Let's just go off the average of what we decided or what I decided because I'm the fucking captain around here. But I go off and then my 2 kids and then they'll have 2 kids, or let's say 3 kids between 2 couples, round it out. So then 3 kids, and then those 3 kids have like a total of 5. And now all of us have gone from every time someone asks us something, they have to feel like they're disarming a problem or something, to generations of my bloodline being, how do you say, not servants, but servants, being vessels of whatever, of good. Just by that one simple language tweak. That one tiny little, would that even be like a verb switch? It's a whole different, you know what I'm saying? It's 2 words. So then that leads me down the kind of like the rabbit hole of like, okay, so what other words then? You know, what other small phrases do I use that I have um, placed there in a place of, I don't even know how you would say that. But does that make sense? How many more of those phrases do I use without really thinking about it? But if I just slightly tweak them, they could have a deep, deep subconscious effect, and maybe that could stem out and make you know what I'm saying? And I can't change everyone, but if I can just focus on how I respond to someone saying thank you to me, as opposed to saying no problem, if I just let them know that they're welcome here. You're welcome here. You're welcome to bother me. You're not bothering me. But if that's how, you're worried about, it's no problem over here. That would be a good place to use it. If you're worried about bothering me, it is no problem. You're welcome to do so, but you're welcome to do so because it is no problem. But it starts with you're welcome. You don't want to just instantly jump to no problem. Anyways, thank you for going through that with me. Um I'll report back. I'm scouring my linguistic system of those small phrases that I use. I'm really, which I know I say I'm doing that and I only have one example of it, but this is a new thought, all right? We can't all do. Um, I went to a comedy show the other night. I live in Oregon. I went and saw an Oregon comic. His name is Dan Weber. Is it Dan Weber? I know Weber's his last name, but now I'm not, well, Weber. Um, no, it's in my wallet actually. I have the ticket right here. I'll just tell you. Dan Weber, yeah. He's from Oregon. I think he was adopted. He's like 50 something. It was a really interesting show. I found out when w- um I live in Portland, Oregon, relatively, and so the club that I frequent or that I like to go to at least is Helium. I don't know. That's the one I've been to that I like. I don't know if I should say frequent, but that's where I've been. Except I had an issue where not an issue. Um, rather I discovered something. So I was so when you buy tickets to a show at this place, there's like two options. There's like general admission and then like reserved. If there were no reserved, and keep in mind I go by myself. I just go and I sit there and I watch a show. So it's not like I'm like reserved seating that way I can like be next to people. The only reason that I would buy reserved tickets is because I didn't want to have to seat myself, right? I didn't like the whole like lunchroom aspect of like where the fuck do I sit at? So I would buy these but now I know that they'll sit you anyways. You don't get to just pick where you sit. I forget where I was going with that. Comedy shows are so interesting. Very interesting. I sit by myself, I sit quietly, I kind of just like I'm glad that like clubs are dark because I would feel bad for any performer that like imagine this, two rum and cokes deep just in the back of the room. And I don't laugh, I don't smile, I just stare and I watch it. I just watch you and I want to see where it's going to go. That's what I like. The only time I've ever laughed, and keep in mind I haven't been to very many shows, but so let's say three shows I've seen. So that would be let's keep it. I've seen 10 live comics total. The only one that has got a verbal or uh how would you say audible rather? The only one that's got an audible laugh from me was Asan Ahmad. He was the middle act on the Duncan Trussell show I went to at Helium. And yeah, 'cause like it matters. Anyways, he was telling this joke, and this is kind of still within like the Palestine or Gaza, Israel war or whatever. When it was still heating up. This was a couple months ago, so it dies down and then it comes back when they want to send more money, whatever. But it was pretty popping at the time. Um, and he was making a joke about, he's a Middle Eastern looking guy, I think. Maybe he's black. I honestly don't know. But he was making a joke about how like DJ Khaled had finally addressed it, and then he was like another one, like reading off Instagram or whatever, and then this girl behind me, a couple seats, started like profusely crying and was like, "That's not okay. That's not fucking okay." And then she packed up her shit and she left, and I was like containing my laughter. That was the hardest I've laughed at a show so far. Because when I'm there, and I'm saying all this as someone who's like looking at jokes he has written down, like it's not so much a show for me as it is almost as if I'm like studying and I'm like hiding my face saying that because I'm embarrassed of it. But that's almost how it feels. Like it almost feels as if I'm like, how do I say this? I don't think I'm any sort of genius or anything like that. I don't think that I'm some sort of like comedic prodigy, right? And that's why I'm not laughing at comics jokes. That's not the case. Even when I watch stand up or things like that. Like I laugh really easily in day to day life, but I don't know. I don't know why. I've never really. It takes a lot to really get a good audible laugh out of me, right? And I lost the thread. I lost the thread. What was I saying? Sorry, I'm sorry. I lost the thread, but I really. Would be good if I had maybe some sort of system where I could like press a button or like play me back the last 15 seconds of what I said. Um so yeah, it's not that I think I'm like some sort of like comedic prodigy or anything like that. I think I'm far from that. So I'm not saying I'm not laughing it from like a place of like, nah, these guys fucking suck. I'm not laughing, but I have I hate talking highly of myself in any regard. So like when I try to say something about myself that I just know to be true, but it sounds, I have really good pattern recognition skills. So oftentimes with movies or shows or even sometimes in comedy, sometimes most of the time in comedy, though I won't say I know the joke before it happens, but it's almost as if I can kind of sense the way it's going, if that makes sense. So the what is a lot of comedy is shock factor, right? So if I'm able to kind of see the road we're going down, it's not as shocking. So it won't kind of elicit that same response from me, right? Good comics are better at it, like very very good comics are better at eliciting responses from people like me because they take that you don't see. And I suppose good comic is subjective because now I'm saying what is my idea of a good comic, but I digress. But or like a good movie is one that I can't predict the ending of within like the first 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't know who the villain is, or like the Gossip Girl. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. I don't even know what the Gossip Girl is. That was just like an example that popped up in my mind. So in that instance, when it the reason that I laughed so hysterically at this girl like freaking out over that was because and also I'd been drinking a little bit and I'm a bit of a, I suppose you could say sadist. I mean, I don't really mean to be, but I definitely think it's funny. But that's also because like I think that inherently everything is suffering, so then to laugh at that, are you a sadist? It's not like I'm deriving joy from it, but it's just like it's funny that you're so upset at that. Does that make sense? Anyways, maybe I'm a sadist and slightly schizophrenic. But I was like, you bought tickets to see the headlining act, right? Like, the middle and opener aren't even like promoted at all. And then before the person that you came to pay money for at a comedy show, and I don't know why I'm explaining this because this is just what it is. This is kind of like the unspoken, but the fact that you see, that's what made me laugh. It was like because it was like a shock, like, oh, this isn't for everyone. And so I thought that that was really funny. I thought it was funny that I kind of had to stifle it because I didn't want to make her feel worse about it, and I also didn't want to be like disruptive. But also, as someone who really appreciates comedy, I thought that that was funny not because of what she was doing, but because of what the comic did to elicit that response. That's a good comic, you know what I'm saying? To upset someone that much, that they would waste their money and get up and leave before even seeing what they paid a came for, or what they came, what they paid. You know what I'm trying to say. So I just thought that was so funny because that's also what I feel like I end up doing a lot is kind of saying things and then it's like, okay, that's too far, and it's like, whoa, why is it too far? I thought we were having a good time here. Can't TJ Khaled make a little bomb joke? Is it really that big of a fucking deal? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Um, I'm a we've talked about this before. I'm a young man without a lot of direction. I mean, I'm talking into my camera alone in my fucking disgusting room right now. Kind of cool though. But clearly I don't have a lot of direction, right? My direction is forward. My direction is whatever's gonna make my wiener hard. You know what I'm saying? Like it, it always bothers me when people are like, "What do you want to do?" You um, like people ask me like at the where I work, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, do you have plans? Like, you trying to move up or like move up the ladder or like how long have you worked here? What do you?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't fucking. What do you want to do? You know, with your life? Have you thought?" I want to fucking jerk off, dude. You know, I'm a 21-year-old young male. I want to jerk off and hit my little fucking bubbly glycerin vape and talking to my webcam in my room. You know. So, um, well, I lost that part of it. We're just gonna go without it for a little bit, and that's all right too. But yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better response to those people. Maybe I'm deflecting what my actual response is. Maybe I actually do know what I want to do, and I'm not confident enough in saying it. Maybe if I'm bringing that up and it's that thought has protruded so far into my head already, probably the case. Maybe that's more of the underlying message. I should be more confident in. It's hard to say who I am because I'm not there yet. Excuse me, sorry. But confident in who I want to be, who I'm on the trajectory of being, I suppose. Um, let's see, what else do I have to really talk about here? Oh, I wrote this. Maybe I'll share this. I said, today, I was waking up early, like noon. And went out and kind of got ready to just smoke and hang out for a minute. And in the morning times, I've been trying to not be on my phone as much because I think that like when you first wake up, especially after like a full night's sleep, whether it's a good rest or a bad rest, you sleep like shit or you have the best dreams of your life or whatever. I think that that's probably the closest you are connected to like I feel like before we moved into this like over materialized 4D type space that we all interact in, I think that was probably a lot more common for people to kind of just like casually swing in and out of like dream states, you know? Because I also think that life was a lot more challenging. So when you have more like challenges in your just just to survive, right? So there's a lot of endorphins probably going on all the time. So then when you kind of like exhaust those um when you're finally like okay, we can chill out for the day, those parts of your brain are like exhausted from like stressing out, so then probably comes flooding in like soothing things, which is kind of like the same thing as like sleeping and like dreaming, right? Except you had to probably be more aware of your surroundings because you couldn't just like lay in a cozy bed in a safe environment like this, and you know what I'm saying? So I think it was a lot more common to kind of drift in and out of those spaces. So I tried to kind of keep myself in that state or as close to as I can in the mornings, I'm doing that more and more, and I'm gonna keep trying to do it. I find I kind of I really like it. And I try not to listen to music, any music that has, and I'm saying I try not to because I sometimes, well, actually, as a matter of fact, I have every time I've done this. I've listened to music that has like words or like meaning or some sort of like subconscious symbolism just through the. So I can't say that, but I have stayed off social media for the most part. Like right now, I'm plagued because like I want to be off social media, but then like I wake up and then it's just like my first instinct to grab my phone, and I'm trying to. But then I grab my phone, and then there's all these notifications, anything stemming from like ESPN to Gmail to all the social media apps, and then like my work and you know text messages, and it's just like it's fucking too much. It's too much, and then I go right from the state in which I probably am the most me, right? To oh, we're back here. To instantly like, oh, we're back here. What is that doing to my brain? So I listened to some 432 hertz jazz. I take out my notebook and I these are like tasks and stuff. I try to plan out the things I want to accomplish for the day. I've been trying to uh how do you say, channel the muse more and more, like if I have an idea, cuz if you have an idea and you say to yourself, "Oh, that's a good one. I'll remember that." You're not going to remember it. So I try to kind of organize them better, at least if you have a brain like me. Um Sometimes I also will just kind of write and reflect or things. I don't know if you would call them poems or if more so you would call them like um, just like think. Anyways, I wrote this. I said, so this was Friday, I believe. So Friday would be the 26th of July, 2024. Normally I date my entries, but for some reason I didn't do this one, which is interesting. I wonder why that is 7/26. Why wouldn't I date this? Hmm. Destructive karmic date. Anyways, maybe that's why I didn't want it on the paper subconsciously. Um, today. Today I want to do things, but my brain has a hard time keeping track. So I get out my pens to realign me with the path. Isn't it funny? Sorry. Sorry. Let me restart. I started thinking about something else. I really apologize. Today I want to do things, but my brain has a hard time keeping track. So I get out my pens to realign me with the path. Isn't it funny? Thoughts outpower that of reality, but I will only be able to keep track of where the pen tells me to go. And here we go. And then I wrote down my mantra and my um bullshit and my uh not my bullshit, my whatever. And then my I did date it. Here it is. It's just down here at the bottom, 23/5. Okay, I did date it. I thought I did. Anyways, and then I wrote out my to-do list for the day where I like organize everything. Friday is one of my days off, so I try to like kind of clean up my space. I didn't do it all the way because on my second day off I got called into work, but and then I wrote out like this is what I'm gonna accomplish today, and then I like kind of kept in my mind that tomorrow I'm gonna go to a show, a comedy show, which is something I enjoy, so I'm deriving just direct pleasure from it, nothing else. And then so then it also motivates me to continue to kind of push through and finish my goals. Um, and kind of just instating in my brain that okay, you don't know where to go, that's fine. Follow the pen then. And like um who is it? Joe Rogan, which oftentimes I find myself wanting to avoid talking about these major media figures, but how can you? But Joe Rogan talks about how, because obviously his thing is like he's super disciplined and all these things or whatever, but it's not actually him that's disciplined, or so he describes, or how I interpreted his description. He calls it the boss, right? And the boss is going to tell you, hey, shut the fuck up. We're going to get this done. And so I thought that was interesting. It makes sense to me. So I tried to, but my boss is weak right now. My boss is kind of a weak pussy boss. He's a couple weeks on the job. No one respects him. And, he's got to lay down some groundwork. He's got to grow. He's got to grow. So how can I outsource the boss to things that, or maybe not outsource, but how can the boss instill into Monkey being me, how can the boss instill that Monkey's gonna listen to him, right? So I'm attempting a lot of different ways, anything from the, my train of thought to following the pen to um, worship of the body through, I forget what it's called, but it's a lot of interesting stuff. But so I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. How can I build up the boss? How can because I don't want to say I'm disgusted in myself because I'm not necessarily disgusted. For me to say I'm disgusted would imply that I feel like I should have done more by now, right? Which, it could be easy to feel that way. It could be easy to feel as if I should have done more by now. But the problem with feeling that way is it contradicts, and I'm not speaking for everyone, you don't have to accept this. Sometimes I'll talk about things I'm not married to. Now I'm talking to something that is my worldview. If I'm frustrated with myself for not accomplishing more by now, that contradicts my belief that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in this moment, right? Now, not to say I shouldn't channel those feelings of I could be doing more, or I should have done more by now into, or I could turn them into feelings and of motivation, or like we're talking about the boss, I can discipline myself into those regards. But what else, you know? What else is my life supposed to look like right now? What else am I supposed to be doing, you know? And then my brain goes to, well, I could be doing um this, or I could be doing this, or I could be doing this. All three of those things are associated with that same feeling of what I feel like I could have done already, or what I should have done already, based on the application onto myself of what others have accomplished, right? So because others have done these things by this age, and I'm not even saying I necessarily think about it in that regard, but it's easy to fall down that path where like um we're all human. People get jealous or have feelings of jealousy or of envy or of whatever. And so for me, I try to ask myself, am I really jealous of this person? Truth is, I'm not a very jealous person. I'm an insecure person. But I'm not really jealous. The reason that I'm not a jealous person is because I don't even, and this is going against all my self-help talk and all my I love myself voodoo bullshit. I cannot be jealous of someone because I don't necessarily even feel like I deserve anything. So what am I being jealous of? It's not like I deserve that. So I'm not jealous of them. But I am um implicating my fears of not doing whatever I'm supposed to onto myself based on the outside, which has nothing to do with them. Has nothing to do with them. Though it sucks that I'm letting them affect me, but it's exactly that. I'm letting them affect me. But I'm not jealous of them. I'm more so I become insecure about my shortcomings. Not to say I never get jealous, but do I get jealous? I don't feel like I get jealous. I feel like I get insecure because I'm lacking this. It's not like I want to be like anyone else. It's when I see someone else doing something so good, I notice what is lacking within myself. Is that jealousy or is that insecurity? I'm labeling it as insecurity because even though I'm upset with myself, I still feel happy for them. I feel like jealousy would not be that way. Maybe I'm also lying to myself about feeling happy for the other person. That doesn't feel right in my stomach. I don't feel like I'm lying. I think I'm insecure, not jealous. Um, I also to kind of touch back on the um the whole today right piece I did about following the pen and organizing my thoughts and stuff like that. Or when I was talking about how I'm trying to associate myself more with like the dream state as opposed to like the other states that we are now excuse me, associating ourselves in. Because also, we think of the dream state as something individual, right? But that's because we all experience it individually, because we only mostly experience it when we're sleeping. Then when we're not sleeping and we're with people, there's no time for the dream state because we're all, or if you're not on your phone, or and you're really trying to be active within the dream state or whatever, they're involved. So then it kind of just disrupts the frequency almost. Um, but it's also like in this part I've been trying to think about, you know, because okay, I have red hair, right? And so being a redheaded kid and now a young man, it's not obscure for people to call me something other than my name, right? Or other than like if you ask me, "Hey, who are you? Like what's your name?" Not in like a it almost seemed like I was like trying to like get information out of you, but no, not like that. Like, you know, how do I identify myself? I may identify myself one way, right? But it's real easy for someone to identify me as something other than what I personally identify myself with, right? Which is okay because I identify with what I identify myself as, but now there is still this other existing perception of me, right? And so let's name that perception. So let's call it ginger, right? People call me these things. So now I'm not only and let's name my perception of myself. I would identify as call James Patrick, right? So now not only am I identifying with James Patrick, but now within someone else's perception of me, I'm identifying with what they perceived me as. And then, okay, and so that's one example of someone else's perception of you being something that you now identify with, right? So now we have your identity, or what you identify with within yourself, the perception that you now have to identify with to kind of just, or sorry, let me, two fingers, perception that you now have to organize yourself with in this social regard. And now I'm going to bring up an emotional. So having red hair, I'm James Patrick, right? However, and I, when you're kind of a big redheaded dude like me, you kind of just inherit this, right? My uncle, when he got mad, that wasn't my Uncle Dennis. That was red, right? That was Big Red. And so that's an emotional identification. That is no longer Dennis, our sweet loving uncle. That is now this or in my instance, that is no longer James Patrick. However they identify me, I am now this angry big red beast, right? Now we have three identifications. We have one for yourself, one for what happens when your mind kind of alters in a certain way, like an emotional identification, and then you have a social identification. And so, and then you can even identify in ways of like your job, and then like maybe like your ranking within that job, all these different ways, right? And then when you add in social media, you know, pause. Not to mention, so you also have your personal identification, James, whoever, my James Patrick, whoever that is for me. And then within myself, and maybe this isn't true for everyone else, but then within myself, I also have multiple different identifications of myself in terms of like, I'm James Patrick, but then I talk about how I have Monkey, and then I have James, and so I have these for myself. So I'm already kind of breaking myself off into all these different places where I'm existing in these different perceptions and thoughts and place holdings within time. Um, and then now with the introduction of tech, how would you say social technology? I suppose social technology, whatever. Social media specifically, I guess. So the now online, and keep in mind every social media platform is different, and that's by design. That way, because if you have Vine, that's really popular, right? None of those other kind of short form video apps that were popping up back in the day worked, right? None of them really worked. Or like when the gig economy was first popping up, you had all of these different like food delivery websites, and then kind of like the top dogs weeded themselves out, and now we have the top four, right? Postmates, Grubhub, or whatever. Um, how does that tie into? Oh, because they're all different. Okay, so you have one video type, and now from Vine, and then once Vine died out, then there was a need for that in the market. So now TikTok has risen, and now anything that's kind of in your relate, I mean, and you see this and I suppose I'm kind of contradicting myself, but every social media is now, or different platform other than TikTok is now implementing TikTok's kind of thing onto their website, being all the shorts and stuff. But that's also because TikTok is in threat of being completely erased. Um, so then, if these bigger corporations eliminate the biggest competitor in that market, and then you all have small markets that people are more accustomed to, then that would probably be harder for another. You see what I'm saying? So then they continue the anyways. So you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have X, you have or Twitter, you have Snapchat, you have Facebook, right? So Facebook, you're identifying. If you're within my age group, this is how I would describe it. Facebook, you're identifying with your family, right? So there's one identification that's completely separate from all of your other social medias. Snapchat, you're identifying with the hoes, right? So you're a slut on there, and keep in mind you also have all these different usernames that you get to select across all these platforms. That then now you're also taking on the personification of that, right? On Twitter, for me, I use Twitter in a like I identify like my Twitter handle is Slep503, right? So not only am I the James I identify with, as well as Monkey, as well as the Ginger, or whatever kind of like nickname that I'm socially perceived as, and now I'm also emotionally perceived as something. Now I also have all of these different perceptions of me across all of these different platforms that I'm micromanaging. I mean, how are you ever and then we're also in this environment where everyone's like, I'm trying to find myself. Which version are we trying to find? It upsets. Why am I why do I feel like I'm getting frustrated? Why do I feel like I think it's just like and I mean, here's another one. Now I'm identifying with Jester's privilege, right? Like I have all of these different things that I'm identifying with, and then I am alone. If I put down the phone and then there's no one around me, now I have none of the perceptions of other people. So now I'm with myself, but then I also don't have all of my selves that are all within these different places. So then it's like, well, who am I if I if I'm not managing myself? See what I'm saying? I don't think that's good for you. I don't think that's good for you at all. Um, I don't think that's good for any of us, because I'm giving examples on an individual level, and now you have, let's say, I live in an apartment complex with, I think some like maybe probably 400 or 500 apartments. All f- so you'd think there's 500 apartments, and maybe there's 1,500 people total. So maybe there's 1,500 people, right? But each one of those people now has 8 different versions of themselves that they have to by their own, kind of this mind prison we've all set ourselves in. We all have to manage all these different versions of ourselves. And then it's like, and I'm guilty of this, and I've caught people doing it, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, and then it's like the opinion that you give in one place is completely different than the opinion you give it somewhere else, because the opinion you gave in this place aligns with what you believe the perception of yourself is, or how you perceive yourself here, and then you can give an opinion that's completely the complete um direct opposite of an opinion you gave over here, and you can completely justify it because you're not this person. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. And I shouldn't say that social media is bad for everyone, I suppose. I'm sure that, you know, of the 1,500 people in this apartment complex, I'm the only one that struggles with this. And I'm the only one that is so confused by all these different versions of myself that I feel like I have to obtain or maintain, when in reality, I'm just one. These things are all me. I don't know. I don't know. So, anyways, I say all that to say I've been trying to stay connected to what I feel like is the most me, or what I feel like people operated the most, uh, some of the most under for the longest amount of period of recorded history, or not even recorded history, just of being alive on this in this realm that we all um inhabit. You know, I have a lot of stuff written down that I could talk about. I've almost been yapping for an hour here. Um, I have a joke I could leave you with. No, I don't really. I don't really have any jokes. How about a hard truth? Okay. Um, no, I'm not gonna say it. I'll save it for next time. I have work in 2 hours. I'm gonna do some more um reading on Robert Anton Wilson. the American author and futurist. Then maybe I'll talk more about him. I also need to remember the name of the guy who was born on the same day as me that thinks all souls come from the sun. I forget his name too. Um, Maybe next time I'll have more to talk about them. I had a great time discussing the fabric of everything with you guys. Um, Trying to stop touching my dick as much. So, I wish. Sometimes when I'm swimming, like if I'm swimming in like a big body of water, sometimes I wish something would just like swim up underneath me, bite my dick off, and then just leave me. And then I could just fully commit myself. I could say a million things. If a man doesn't have a penis, he can commit himself to literally anything. Good night.